never believe the sweet reason why Prince William broke protocol. He usually follows the rules to a T, but this time he made an exception, and it was all for the sake of his family. But what exactly did he do against the rules? We all know that Prince William is not usually one to break the rules of royal life. His position in the royal family almost doesn't allow it at all, because as the first in line to the throne, his role in the monarchy is obviously super important. So a lot of the time, the rules are even more strict for him than for other royal family members. But he doesn't actually seem to mind following the rules and being the perfect future king. It's really rare to see William do anything that would be against royal protocol, so it was extra shocking when news broke about something he did that definitely wasn't in the royal rulebook. But in true William fashion, it only made everyone admire him even more, because he actually had a really good reason to break protocol there. Normally, when a royal couple is expecting a baby, the rules say that the father is not actually allowed to be present for the birth. He only gets to meet the baby after the difficult part is done and over with. But even though William doesn't usually have a problem following the rules, he did have a problem with this one, because not being present for the birth would mean that he couldn't be there to support Kate through it. And apparently it wasn't just William who wasn't too happy with that rule. Kate allegedly also wanted him to stay with her through it all. And in the end, that's probably what made William decide to rebel a little. If Kate hadn't really cared much about his presence, he might have followed protocol and stayed out of the delivery room. But she allegedly actually asked him to be there when the time came, and that would have made all the difference to William. But there's actually another big reason why he was probably more eager to do whatever Kate wanted. You might remember from back in the day that Kate didn't have the easiest time with pregnancy. She struggled through pretty much the whole 9 months, and it was a really difficult time. She had a lot of bad morning sickness and maybe some even scarier complications, and she obviously had the best possible medical care. But even so, the pregnancy was really hard on her, and there really wasn't much William could do about that. So I imagine that when she asked him to be there for the birth, the last thing he wanted to do was say no to her, especially because of some royal protocol technicality. So he just didn't say no. He decided that Kate and the baby were more important than some rule. He stuck with Kate when she went into labor, and he stayed with her throughout the whole thing. And thanks to that, he was also there for it when the baby was finally born. He and Kate got to share that beautiful moment. And this is actually something that Kate has talked about before. She mentioned on a podcast that one of her favorite things about giving birth was the look on William's face. According to her, he was just in complete awe of their newborn baby. And for Kate, that's a precious memory she will cherish for a long time. This whole thing just really shows how cool William actually is. Just think about it. Every day, there are hundreds of small rules that he has to follow. He's been doing that his whole life. And that might sound pretty miserable, but for him, it's something he's just used to doing all the time. Following all the rules has to be second nature to him by now. So deciding to break one is a step out of the ordinary for him. And that's the thing about experiences like this that are just normal for ordinary people like you and me. The royals often just don't get to have them because of some rule or protocol. And most of the time, they don't actually do anything about it and just accept it as reality. So the fact that William decided to break protocol, and at such an important moment for his family, is pretty amazing actually. And it makes him an amazing husband and dad. But believe it or not, this wasn't actually the only time he's ever broken protocol. He doesn't do it a lot, don't get me wrong. But even so, throughout the years, there have been a couple of times that he broke the rules. For example, back in 2008, he grew a beard. That doesn't actually seem like that big of a deal at first, but it's actually expected that all of the men in the royal family should have their faces shaved at all times. Except William actually broke that rule when he traveled to Barbados with the Royal Navy. This was pretty big news back then because we had never really seen him with a beard before, and there was a lot of speculation about why he actually let it grow out. One of the theories was that he wanted to look different so people wouldn't immediately recognize him while he was in Barbados. He was there as part of a Navy mission, so it would probably be really inconvenient if he just kept getting recognized the whole time. But even though he grew his beard out, he wasn't actually able to keep it for very long. As soon as he returned home from Barbados, he started shaving again, and the whole thing was over just like that. And even though it definitely was against protocol, looking back, it just doesn't seem like such a big deal. Mainly because since then, we've seen another prominent member of the royal family start growing out his beard. I'm obviously talking about Prince Harry. These days, it's hard to imagine him without his signature beard. And he's not just wearing it because he can now that he's left the royal family. He actually had a full beard for a number of years before he and Meghan ended up leaving. And that whole time, he was actually breaking protocol while being right in the middle of the royal spotlight. Of course, it's not that surprising that Harry would break protocol like that. He's never been one to follow the rules very closely, unlike William. But even Harry still had to convince Queen Elizabeth to make an exception for him and let him keep his beard. He couldn't just start wearing his beard in a protocol-breaking way and not address it with her. But when he explained that the beard was important to him and his mental health, Elizabeth understood and let him keep it. That's allegedly something that William was jealous about too. He was never allowed to keep his beard at home. And Harry said that William struggled to accept that for a while. But there's actually one more thing that William sometimes does that's definitely against royal protocol. And once again, it's a really sweet thing about him. He tends to throw the rules out the window when it comes to meeting fans. Royal family members will usually keep their distance when meeting people. Obviously, the work of a royal involves meeting a lot of commoners. Not only the fans who are waiting around to get a glimpse of the royals, but also specialized workers if they're visiting some kind of institution. Normally, the royals will speak with these people, but they will never touch them. Except it seems like William doesn't actually think much of that rule. Back in 2019, a picture of him hugging a hospital worker circled the internet, and it was honestly pretty sweet. He just hugged her because it felt right in the moment, no matter what protocol says about that. And he's also been known to take selfies with fans, even though that's maybe even more against protocol than hugging people. But the best part about all of this is that one thing is obvious: William never breaks protocol, unless it's for other people's sake. He did it when it was important to Kate, but he will also break protocol to make his fans happy and to engage more closely with the public, and that is honestly pretty admirable. But anyway, what do you guys think? What do you think about William being there when Kate gave birth? And do you think he would look better with a beard? Or do you like him without one? Let me know in the comments below.